please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
A 14-day session, 61 useful hours in the Lok Sabha, 41 in the Rajya Sabha and 12 bills passed by both houses of Parliament. That in a snapshot of the winter session of Parliament. Data claims that productivity in the Lok Sabha touched a record high of almost 92%. The PRS calculation, however, puts it at a respectable 78%. Similarly, there is a small deviance in the Rajya Sabha productivity figures as well. The session saw 3 key bills being passed by both houses: the IBC Amendment Bill, the Companies Amendment Bill and the Appropriation Bill, which deals with the recapitalization of public sector banks. It was not a smooth start for the government, though. The first few sittings were marred by repeated disruptions by Congress MPs who sought Prime Minister Modi's apology for his comments against the former Prime Minister Singh. The next friction point was the instant triple talaq bill in the Rajya Sabha after the Lok Sabha had passed the bill. The Congress demands that the bill be sent to a parliamentary committee. The bill will now be taken up in the budget session. So to discuss the winter session that was and the budget session that will be, I'm joined by Gaurav Gogoi of the Congress Party, GVL Narasimha Rao of the BJP and Aditi Fadnis, political editor of Business Standard. Appreciate you joining us here on the program. GVL Narasimha Rao, let me start by asking you, and I'll quote to you what the Vice President, Mr. Venkaiah Naidu, has said. He says that through Parliament was a political institution, it cannot be made an extension of politics in its typical sense, which is marked by deep divisions and acrimony. The legislatures of our country, including the Apex Parliament, need to quickly evolve the way we conduct our proceedings so as to meet the needs of our evolving nation. Isn't it the job of the government, isn't it the job of the ruling party, Mr. Narasimha Rao, to ensure that we actually get Parliament to do its function?
Yes, I think what the Vice President, you've just quoted the Chairman of the Rajya Sabha, this is what exactly Honorable Prime Minister has been saying. He said this even before, at the start of winter session also. The Parliament is to debate, to discuss and to legislate. But it needs 2 hands to clap. I think the intent of the government had been clear from the very beginning. This government, if you look at the success of various sessions over the past 3 years, you will realize that the productivity of Parliament had been very appealing. We have had some massive transformation, massive legislations that have been passed. GST is certainly one major example of that.
Mr. Rao, wouldn't it be fair, sir? Wouldn't it be fair, Mr. Rao? I'm interrupting you because you said it needs 2 hands to clap. So wouldn't it be fair then to say that some credit must also be given to the opposition? You just highlighted how the 3 years of Parliament have been the best in terms of productivity, in terms of passing transformational legislation. Wouldn't you be a little bit generous to the opposition for ensuring that that is a reality today?
No, Shireen, this is also thanks to the people of the country. They have given us a big mandate. So Lok Sabha, we have been able to get the bills passed without much of opposition recalcitrance. But at the same time, we have, whenever Parliament functioned and we were able to legislate, we have certainly thanked the opposition. Even today, Parliamentary Affairs Minister Mr. Anantkumar thanked the opposition for making this a very successful session. But at the same time, a session, the house where we do not have the numbers, the Rajya Sabha, it is where opposition has been holding the government to ransom. So that is really the concern. I think the productivity of Rajya Sabha today in the winter session is 50% less than the productivity of the Lok Sabha. So why should a popularly elected government be actually subjected to this kind of blackmail by an opposition, which is certainly, it's not because of issues alone, it's also politics that really comes in play.
Gaurav Gogoi, respond to the comment, and this is not a new comment that's been made by the BJP. In fact, they don't really see the virtue or the worthiness of even having a Rajya Sabha. But Gaurav Gogoi, leave that aside. Respond to the charge that's being made here by GVL Narasimha Rao that the Congress party is blackmailing the country by holding the Rajya Sabha hostage.
Well, the BJP unfortunately does not believe in democracy and does not believe in parliamentary procedures. And I'll prove that to you. First of all, talking about parliament productivity, it did not even start the winter session on time. Politics delayed the start of the winter session, because of which ordinances on GST and insolvency were brought. So for all this talk about winter session, this was one of the shortest winter sessions of the parliament. Secondly, where in the Lok Sabha, where they have the numbers, they pass the bills through, in a haste. It goes to Rajya Sabha, where the wisdom prevails on certain bills which require further amendments, and those bills are then brought back after those amendments are made back into the Lok Sabha. So a lot of parliament time is being wasted because they are not even listening to the opposition in the Lok Sabha. On many times, standing committees and select committees are part and parcel of a parliamentary procedure, and they allow the legislator to further scrutinize a bill in order to add more teeth and add more strength to it. But instead of allowing these bills to go to the select or standing committee, they want to bypass the entire standing and select committee altogether. This parliament has the lowest record of bills being sent to the standing and select committee. So they want to completely bypass parliament. They don't believe in democracy. They don't believe in checks and balances.
Let me get GVL to respond to that. GVL, you accuse the Congress party of using the Rajya Sabha to blackmail the government. The Congress party says that, look, you're circumventing parliamentary procedure as well. Why is there not enough consultation by way of the select committees or the standing committees? Why are you so hesitant that there be brainstorming over crucial legislation, including things like triple talaq, which now find themselves pushed to the budget session of parliament because it couldn't go through the Rajya Sabha in this session? Why not go through the process of consultation through either select committees or standing committees? And the record shows that that is not something that the BJP has done.
Shireen, complex legislations have all been referred to the standing committee and select committee, but we cannot. Select committee or standing committees are an avenue to strengthen bills, not to really sidetrack bills, not to really push them into the cold storage, not to somehow use this as an excuse to somehow try and derail legislation. This is one of the triple talaq legislation is one of the briefest legislations. It has just 4 clauses. You've discussed them threadbare for 4 hours in Lok Sabha, and the bill was passed by almost consensus. But why does the Congress find a problem with the same bill that is introduced in Rajya Sabha, where we were willing to debate it for 4 hours? A 4-clause bill for 4 hours of discussion. Can we not simply seal it? Is this not an attempt to somehow derail the entire legislation by using the bahana, an excuse of a select committee?
All right, let me very quickly get Gaurav Gogoi to respond to that, and then I'll get the referee in this match, Aditi Padnis, to give her point of view. Gaurav Gogoi, respond to GVL's point that you're using this as a bahana. You want to derail the legislation, and hence you take the select committee recommendation route.
Well, GVL has completely proved our point that the BJP government is not even serious about the Muslim women empowerment bill, because the bill in its themes relate to inheritance, relate to custody of a child, relate to criminal procedures, and relate to religion as well. So all these complicated subjects are just addressed by 4 clauses. GVL himself says this is the briefest bill, and this is what we are saying, that a bill which talks about inheritance, about marriage law, about divorce law, about domestic violence should need to be further strengthened and be much more elaborate than this short version and brief version and 4-clause version that the BJP brought, which if it gets implemented will not allow women to access
I don't want to make this... Sure, I don't want to make this about triple talaq. We've already been discussing that through the week, so I'm going to call a timeout here between. I'm going to call a timeout here between the 2 political spokespeople and go to the match referee, Aditi Padnis. Perhaps there is some element of truth to the arguments being made both by GVL Narasimha Rao as well as Gaurav Gogoi. But what, to your mind, would be the big highlight, the big takeaway from the winter session of Parliament?
Well, a lot of work has been done, and I think the Congress now, the opposition generally, is deploying itself far more intelligently than it was earlier. Earlier, it was just a matter of coming to the well of the house and shouting. Fortunately, that tactic seems to have changed now, and I think the insistence on moving things to the select committee actually the readiness to work
Yeah.
where there is an area of consensus, and you have to give them credit. There has been areas of consensus where the Congress has not raised unnecessary issues. In the Lok Sabha, for instance, it's a fait accompli, it's a given, so you can't do much about it. But even there, in the Trinamool, the attitude of the Trinamool Congress, for instance, to the judges' bill, all those things are indications that where it can help, it will help. Where it has doubts, the opposition will do its job.
So it's played a constructive role.
So I think the government should
Acknowledge
concede.
that.
Yeah, concede.
GVL, very quickly respond to the match referee saying that, look, the Congress hasn't made your life difficult in areas where it actually agrees with you, and there are concerns, legitimate concerns that it has, where it has tried to, but concede ground to the fact, or to the Congress, that it's actually played a constructive role.
No, you see, whenever I have said earlier that whenever they supported legislation, we have always thanked them. But it is not, they're not doing a favor to the BJP. BJP and Congress exist because people of the country have voted us to be in parliament. Nobody is doing anybody a favor. We have to have national interest at the top of our minds. And if they have done their job, public duty, we certainly thank them. And if they have betrayed public interest, we expose them. And on most occasions, I think like what I've stated, even on GST you've seen, after having passed unanimously in Parliament and after unanimous decisions in the GST Council, the kind of cheap politics that Rahul Gandhi played over GST is there for everyone to see. So therefore, I'm not willing to give them credit because they don't deserve it. Because even after unanimous decisions, you pick holes in it and use very petty politics over it.
But GVL Narasimha Rao, if the BJP truly believes that Rahul Gandhi is playing cheap politics, then why make the changes that Rahul Gandhi and the Congress party have been asking for? Then you should have stuck to your guns. Why make the changes? And there have been umpteen number of changes that the GST Council has brought about. If you think that it's only a matter of cheap politics that the Congress is playing.
And not in national interest.
I think you seem to be giving, not one change is because of Rahul Gandhi. I think not one change that has been made in GST. I don't even know how much of it he understands. Not one change. We are a government. We certainly want to improve, be it demonetization or GST after the rollout. We have certainly monitored the implementation, and we make changes as are in national interest. We are a government that are talking to every section of the society. So Rahul Gandhi was only playing politics. Tell me one change that was made as a result of Rahul Gandhi's demand. Was there anything specific except playing cheap politics over it?
Let's now talk about the session that is going to be crucial, which is the budget session, which starts from the end of January. We've got the union budget slated for the 1st of February. Today, we've got the CSO put out the advance estimates of the GDP coming in at a 4-year low. This is the lowest that we've seen since FY14. Aditi Phadnis, how do you see the budget session panning out? The question is, will there be fiscal profligacy? Will there be fiscal prudence? Will they stick to 3.2%? Will there be a minor slippage? Is it going to be an agri-focused budget which seems to take care of the message that the Gujarat election sent out? How do you see the budget session progressing?
We now know that the budget will be tabled on the 1st of February. As always, there will be an economic survey. The railway budget will be part of the main budget. After that, we have to see what figures the government presents. The Congress has been remarkably quiet on reports that the fiscal deficit is going to be breached. There's been not a peep from the Congress, anyone. No one has commented so far, which means...
So Mr. Chidambaram seems to be, raising those issues there, and it was addressed by the Finance Minister in Parliament yesterday as well, saying that, look, we brought down the deviations on fiscal deficit from the highs that the UPA had brought us to, and even if there is a slippage, now we're talking about discussing minor slippages.
All I'm saying is there may be a slippage, but the Congress is not accusing yet anybody of anything yet. So I suspect that when they see the final figures, and we know that today the RBI has advanced the government some money, they've offered
it's not a done deal yet, but that's the assumption.
That's the general impression. and that is the only way to go, frankly. So we don't know yet what the fiscal deficit situation is going to be. And also, I think there are some concerns about rising oil prices. So those things will have to be addressed in the budget as well. As you say, it's going to be an agri-oriented budget, which is as it should be, because I mean there have been firings on farmers, so you need to address those issues. We'll have to see the taxation part. We don't really know that yet. But if there is going to be anything like a UBI, then I think
a universal basic income scheme, which is something that the economic survey presented by Arvind Subramaniam, the chief economic advisor, had floated that idea. Will it be introduced even in a pilot fashion in the budget?
It's been accepted by the Jammu and Kashmir government, and they have decided to roll it out.
Will we see more on that in the budget? Is the question. Gaurav Gogoi, strategy for the budget session and expectations from the union budget, more importantly.
Well, first of all, quick rebut to GVL. I think all these personal remarks against Rahul Gandhi only shows their brittle egos and how fragile their egos are. Secondly, I disagree with Aditi's assessment of the Congress strategy. We've been quite hard on the BJP on the economy. We've been talking about a 2% drop in the GVA, gross value added. We've talked about jobs not being created, the low private investment, the state of NPAs. And clearly the economy now being at 6.5% only shows that how BJP is harming India's interest by the economic mismanagement. It's unfortunate when the entire world, global world, is recovering and posting good and positive growth figures. India seems to be the only economy amongst the major and emerging economies that is going in the opposite trend, and that just shows the mismanagement of the BJP. Going forward, we've been focusing on how the rural economy has completely been ignored. This micro, small and medium industries where most jobs are being created have been completely being ignored. Skill development and education, two things which are critical to our demographic, has not been given sufficient attention. The Ministry of Skill Development have gone back for their initial targets. So all of this, along with the global rise in oil prices, seems to be that the government is not putting its head together. They are always in election mode and not at all in governance, and not at all interested in governance.
All right. GVL Narasimha, I could see you smiling through the argument that Gaurav Gogoi was presenting, so I know you're ready for the kill, so to speak. So go ahead, GVL.
No, you see, the party that had completely mismanaged the economy, and the economic doctors of the Congress like Dr. Manmohan Singh and Chidambaram, which made it one of the 5 fragile economies of the world. I think today they think economy is really not doing well. When the whole world concurs with the fact that we are the brightest spot in the world, the growth projections of all the financial institutions are very attractive. After 13 years, you have a credit rating that has improved. Like so I think all fundamental parameters are good. And a massive reform like GST certainly has really hurt our growth for a quarter. And also, but this is a short-term pain for a long-term gain. So certainly the economy is in a take-off mode. We are doing far better today. Inflation has been under control, well below the RBI mandated level of 5%. And Congress, what did the Congress party give us? A 4% growth rate under 10% inflation. And they think they have governed the country very well.
No, 1 second. No, not entirely accurate, the numbers that you're throwing away, GVL. But let's just talk about we've got the data today. It's FY18 numbers put out by the government, by the CSO, 6.5% GDP, 6.1% GVA. So GVL Narasimha Rao, that is the data and it speaks for itself. Let's now talk about what we should realistically expect as far as the budget session is concerned. You've got pending legislation like triple talaq, etc. that will be taken forward in the budget session. But more importantly, all eyes on the union budget. This is going to be the first post-GST budget, GVL. What should we expect?
I think it will be a great budget. That's all I can tell you. It will certainly be a growth-oriented budget. Because after we have reformed our sector,
let me ask you a different question. Let me ask you a different question, because I know that you won't be able to give us a great insight into what the budget will have. But what would you like the budget to focus on? You know, we've talked about agriculture, and even as far as today's data is concerned, agricultural growth estimate about a little over 2%, which is the big concern. You know, what is it that you would like the budget to focus on?
No, certainly, you see that the focus of this budget will be, as I said, on growth, on increasing certainly the demand, and certainly we need more growth in rural sector so that you have greater demand coming from rural areas. So I think you have seen certain series of steps being taken even in the last 6 months. You've seen how on the one hand bank recapitalization has been proposed, and on the other public investments in the rural sector, in infrastructure sector that have already been speeded up. And I certainly will see a continuation. This budget will see a continuation of that focus. Public investments and also greater investments in agriculture, enhancing rural demand, and increasing the growth potential overall. I think these are things which are definitely likely to happen, because that's how this country, that's how the last 3 budgets have focused, and this country, that momentum will continue.
Well, we will find out on the 1st of February when the Finance Minister presents the Union budget. But for today, we'll have to leave it here. Gaurav Gogoi, GVL Narasimha Rao, Aditi Fadnis, thanks very much for joining us. There was no acrimony, or at least not a lot of acrimony on this show. We actually had a meaningful conversation, which is the hope that the Vice President has, that even Parliament will see less acrimony and more meaningful conversation and legislation. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us here on CNBC TV18.